And we're live. Okay. So for all the many viewers that we have out there, um, this is not part of the regular campaign. This is part of the same world, but I'm doing a one shot for some friends. My good friend and player in the regular campaign, Nina, is in this, and we're
Oh,
doing a little kind of introductory side session for that one shot that we'll be doing here in a few weeks. But yeah,
yep. I'm here. I'm Nina. That's my name.
yep, that's her name. Don't, don't, don't do the thing.
Don't get
Um,
it twisted.
don't get it twisted. Okay, so, um, this takes place in kind of across the continent, a few months away from Typhus, where the other group is at, near the capital of Kenta. But we'll go ahead and get started. Kaliana, a thriving city resting upon the Iha River. Every traveler sailing to the capital city of Kenta from the Lifeblood Sea must pass through here. And because of this, the city and its nobles have come to know a vast amount of wealth. Outside the city's walls are the less fortunate, those born of less than noble birth. The ones who are lucky are able to find work in a noble's home, but many are not so lucky. Instead, they have to rely on one another and the coin of the passing merchants and travelers that aren't wealthy enough to stay inside the city proper. Shaw was one of the lucky ones, born into a family of beastkeepers for Lady Natalia Asmanoff. She grew up in relative comfort living in the lady's home. As she grew older, her way with the beasts became more and more useful, and soon she was able to take over her parents' job as they retired to the outer edges of town. Shaw was happy. She drank, she partied, and she found warmth in whatever man she decided to bed for the night. But then the lady's son, Evan, set his eyes upon her. And once Natalia learned of their affair, Shaw was thrown out of her long-time home faster than she could blink her one eye. That was 3 years ago. Now she goes from day to day, doing what she can to stay afloat. Go ahead and take it away, Nina.
Taking it away. The good thing about being unemployed is that you have a lot more freedom. There's the opportunity to do a lot of things if you take advantage of it. You can find yourself spiritually or take up a new hobby, meet new people, and change your entire life's course in a few weeks. Or if you're like Shaw Hallbjorn, you can fall into a new, unremarkable routine and stay stuck in a mediocre lifestyle for several years with barely any income. If you asked Shaw, she'd tell you it was a transitional period and she was getting back on her feet. But the truth was she was stuck in a rut. Seeing the same people, good people, sure, but nobody new, and doing the same things. Like today, for instance. She had woken up, eaten breakfast, and headed straight to the tavern. But for conversation. Yesterday, she hadn't left the house at all. The feeling of stagnation that came with sitting around all day motivated her to do something different now, but not too different. It was the same tavern she always went to, so often that she knew exactly what would happen the moment she walked in and sat down. The barkeeper, Todd, smiled at her and handed her a stick of dried beef. He always did that when she came in with her dog, Falco. Todd loved her dog. Almost everyone did. Falco got far more attention than she did these days. And that's how it went. She sat at the bar, chatting casually, keeping her ears open, and everyone else made a beeline for her dog. Falco loved the attention, and if he was happy, so was she. She thought to herself, sitting with a drink between her hands. Today would be a good day. Not great, but good. And that's all she was asking for right now.
You love those dog sound effects.
Those were excellent dog sound effects. So realistic.
So realistic. Yeah.
I thought it was my dog, like my actual dog in my house for a second.
No, it was our dogs in my house barking at someone at the door, I think. All right. It's a relatively busy day in the tavern. This is kind of off in the outer city. Not many people venture here from the noble side of things, but it does get quite a bit of traffic, especially around midday and once all the shops close. Right now it's midday. You've come in here looking for kind of a meal and a drink, and as you said before, some company. As you sit at the bar and are given your drink, and your dog's given jerky and has now gathered a small... Hold on a minute. We're pausing.
Pause the recording as well.
Okay, we're back.
We are.
After a brief commercial break. So, you're sitting there waiting for your food. Your dog has gathered a small entourage around it as people are giving... Is your dog a boy or a girl?
It's a boy.
Boy. As they're giving your dog all sorts of kind of affection and attention, and he's just loving it. You, though, are sitting alone. As you kind of typically do, you're keeping an eye around for people you recognize or anybody that might catch your eye and want to start a conversation. The tavern itself is filled with various kind of artisans and craftsmen that work nearby, but also a few merchants that are throwing their coin around looking for news from the capital or news from around the world, or just looking to share a drink with somebody. But as you hear the door open behind you to the tavern and some footsteps that sound eerily familiar, you turn and see Tinker walking in, his big beard and glasses kind of glistening in the sun as the sunlight is shedding into the tavern from behind him. He looks around and immediately his eyes lock on you. Shaw!
Oh, Tinker, there you are.
How are you doing?
Sort of living life as you do.
Yeah. He's gonna kind of stand up on the cask by the bar to order a drink. He slams his hand down on the counter and calls for an ale. Looking over at you. Already got yourself a drink, huh?
Yeah, I beat you to it, so you can't pay for me this time.
I got you next time.
Of course you do.
There's plenty of opportunities with you. You're here all the damn time anyway.
Well, where else would I be at this point, honestly?
He kind of shrugs. Got me there. How are things looking?
Oh, about how they are most of the time these days. Just sort of bumming around, waiting for something to happen. How about with you?
Business as usual. Just taking a bit of a break, getting a drink, and then going back to work. I work better on all the little details when I've got a nail or two in me.
I was going to say when you're slam drunk, you do your best work.
Yeah, exactly. So no jobs laying out there for you yet?
Not that I've seen in the past few months even. Starting to run low on funds. I might have to write to Rose again and ask her for some more money.
Rose, your sister, right, in Kenta?
Yeah.
What does she even do up there?
About the same thing I do. More or less.
So nothing?
Well, listen here. I used to do, I suppose.
So beekeeping. Keeping
Yeah,
with the family trade. Makes sense.
Yeah, better than me.
That's hard to believe. I always heard you had a way with kind of the animals you took care of.
Oh, yeah. Her way with people's a little better than mine, though.
That does get you a long way, but you only really need to have your way with me, right?
Oh, is that so? She kind of hits his arm softly.
Well, me and Evan, but we'll see where that got you.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't ask for that.
Maybe not. You guys kind of sit there joking around for a while. Once you get your food, he eats pretty quickly and then has to head back out to his shop, saying that he'll see you later and your next drink is on him.
Sweet man.
Yeah. But you're sitting there alone for a while, and people are still kind of playing with Falco. But eventually, you start feeling the need, or not necessarily the need, but it feels like it's about time to go. As you're kind of getting your things together and settling your tab, the door opens again, and turning around, you see a young girl, probably about 14. She's wearing these dark gray overalls and underneath a white collared short sleeve shirt. She's got short blonde curly hair and big green eyes and is looking around frantically with a little envelope in her hand. Once you kind of turn and see her, she seems to catch eyes with you, and starts hurrying between people, kind of apologizing as she does, trying to get towards you. And it takes her a few minutes as she's not wanting to step in people's way or be an inconvenience, but she does get there eventually. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Are you Shaw Halbjorn?
It's Halbjorn, little one. But yes, that's me.
Oh, I have a message for you from, Lady Asmanoff.
Her entire expression, she gets kind of wide-eyed, and she's like, "Oh, is that so? Give it here, I guess."
Yeah, and she kind of sets it down on the bar next to you. You can recognize Lady Asmanoff's seal, on the back and wax, kind of sealing it shut.
All right. Does she need a tip or anything?
You're not sure.
I don't have any money.
She kind of awkwardly stands there for a minute after she gives it to you. She would like to humbly ask for your company this evening if you have no other plans.
I have no other plans. Well, you run along and tell her that I'll.
You'll go?
I. She looks at the seal and she's like, "Yes, I suppose I will."
Okay, great. I'll go let her know. Thank you so much. And she's gonna kind of back out and eventually make her way towards the door and head outside.
Cool. Shaw kind of chuckles and shakes her head and goes to open the envelope and see what it says.
All right. So as you cut open the seal and pull out the letter, you recognize it's not Lady Asmanoff's handwriting. It's actually Jane's handwriting, your sibling, and it strikes you a bit odd, but it's kind of whatever. And as you're reading it, it's basically a letter saying that she has gotten over your differences and is fully aware and understanding that you have had time, to account for your transgressions, and that she hopes that you will join her for dinner this evening, um, for a job proposal that she needs your help with.
I'm gonna make an insight check on the sincerity there. No.
Insight check on the letter.
Insight check on the letter. In this one shot, we roll insight.
We roll insight on this.
Needless to say, Shaw is highly suspect about the sincerity of the whole gotten over our differences spiel. Curious, so she kind of looks down at Falco and she's like, "Hey, Falco, you hear that, boy? We're going, quote unquote home tonight. I'm guessing.
And he kind of like
stoked about that.
he perks up, and his ears like shoot straight up as he looks at you.
I'm gonna laugh a little and pet him.
All right.
Guess I'm good.
Cool. As you get your things together and leave, what are you doing? Because, I mean, it's probably about 1. Is there anything in particular Shaw would want to do to prepare?
She's definitely gonna go home and change into something a little nicer, I guess. She doesn't have unfortunately, any new clothes to kind of flaunt that she's doing just fine, but if she did, she'd put those on. Instead, she's gonna go with, something that's respectful, but not, like, good.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than that, she's gonna down a little bit of alcohol before going to calm her nerves, but that's basically her prep sesh.
Okay, got it. You spend a few hours kind of hanging around, and eventually you change and make sure you get ready and look presentable, and you take a few shots of liquor to calm your nerves and keep the shaking down. You make your way through the town towards the city wall and towards the nicer part of town, the nobler part of town, the part of town that you used to call home, and that used to be such a major point of your life, but now you barely have the opportunity to come here anymore. But as you walk the streets, going your way towards Lady Asmanoff's home and manor, you recognize a lot of the buildings and a lot of the people. You see some familiar faces that have grown a few years older, and some homes that have kind of undergone drastic differences. And it's just kind of like a bit strange, but it feels good to be back, at least for a little. As you make your way through the streets, you eventually find your way to her manor. And we'll say you stop for a moment as you're kind of looking up at it. It's a pretty sizable manor, about 3 stories tall, and quite a bit of square footage. Outside there's an elaborate garden with various plants and roses and other flowers, but roses are definitely highlighted here, that are just kind of climbing up the walls of the manor, but also just really elaborately decorated in the yard. As you walk up, somebody walks out to greet you, as if they were obviously expecting you, but also waiting for you. Walking out of the front door, you see your sibling, Jane. You haven't seen them in a little bit. You don't kind of go out of your way very often to see them, but they're your youngest sibling, obviously, about 20 years old. They wear a butler suit with white pants and a white vest and a dark colored undershirt. There's a red rose placed in there, kind of attached to their vest. And they have the same tanned skin as you and dark hair, but they've cut it short, with the back being cut up almost to the scalp. In the front, there's a long braid, or not braid, there's a long bang kind of cut diagonally across their face. A lot like Jiro from My Hero Academia. Very much in that vein. Then they've never been big on makeup or kind of decorating themselves in that way. And so much of their face is completely bare, except for They have a very colorful orange eyeshadow that is above their eyes. But yeah, they walk
Oh,
up as you're approaching and just kind of smiles lightly at you as you approach.
hello there, Jane. You look well.
You as well, Shaw? It's been quite some time.
It's been a bit. Uh, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Please follow me. The lady is waiting for you.
Of course she is. Do you know anything about this job? Can you give me any hints?
They look at you for a moment. Give me a persuasion roll. We'll see
Um,
if they're willing to say anything. That went well. So far, you're rolling really well for Shaw.
Shaw, what the hell? I gotta turn off. Hold on, I gotta turn off advantage though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I believe it will be better for the lady to explain things herself.
Of course you do. All right.
But of course, it is a fantastic opportunity, and you will be compensated very handsomely for it.
I'm always about that handsome compensation. Away.
Very well. They lead you inside, and the halls are much as you remember them as far as structure goes, but you remember that the lady will often redecorate, especially once every couple parties. She doesn't like things to get too familiar. She believes it makes things very stale. And this just happens to be very much a time for like dark colors and reds and purples. So as you're traveling through the halls heading towards what you think is her office, surprisingly, it's a lot darker than you recall, and that kind of is a bit off-putting to you, because you used to remember it as such as like a bright and beautiful place. But you are led up to her office, and
Oh God.
entering into this large room, you can see off to the left and right, there are these openings that allow her to look down on basically the banquet hall that she has set up in her home. There's a nice sitting area and the desk with a few chairs in front of it, and kind of a back room that serves for some of her finest collections. You can hear heavy breathing coming from behind her desk that you imagine is potentially one of her pets. And you see Lady Natalia Asmanoff sitting behind her desk, writing something as you enter. As you walk in, Jane closes the door behind you and comes and basically stands off to the side, like right around here, and gestures for you to take a seat.
I will do so.
All right. You walk in, and she hasn't even really looked up at you quite yet. But as you sit down and sit there for a moment, she sets down her pen. Sure, it's so wonderful to see you again.
It's
Tell
lovely
me,
to see.
how have you been?
Oh goodness. Been just lovely recently. And yourself?
She kind of gives a very warm but definitely fake smile. Things have been quite well for me. My dear Evan, I don't know if you heard, but he has become married, and they have a small child now, and it's a very happy time in our home.
I'm very. Had I heard that Evan had gotten married, or is this the first time hearing about
Probably.
this?
You probably would have heard
Okay.
through mutual contacts.
Yeah. I'm very happy for you. It sounds just lovely.
Yes, it is. I just want you to know that there are no hard feelings between us. I understand that at first I was very vengeful and very wrong towards you. But as the years have passed on, I have come to understand that after raising a child on the finest meats for so long, eventually they get curious over the common swivel. And I should not hold that against you, and I apologize.
Shaw visibly tenses up at that. Suppose I'll take that.
But come, we are not here to talk about the past, we are here to talk about the future. And your future is looking very, very bright.
Oh, excellent. Yes. Your letter mentioned a job, and I am in the market for one. So
5,000 gold.
and Shaw like jumps. She's like, really?
For the successful accomplishment of this task, and for your discretion.
Well, seems like a high-profile job. I'm honored that you contacted me. I agree. I should know a little more about it. Yeah.
Absolutely, I just wanted to get your interest, and I thought that would be a good way to do so, but also to highlight the importance of this job.
Consider me both intrigued and the importance highlighted.
Very well. You see, I'm sure you remember some of my creatures. There was Krieg and Eterna and Sturm and Lath, my wolves and my bear, and Apaya. And she kind of gestures next to her, and looking over, you can see some of the large, you can see bits of the large form of Apaya, her prized, like, dire wolf, that she's had for a number of years. You always thought it was a bit weird that she named her pets after the dead gods, but you figure it may be a bit of a power trip, or you're not entirely sure. But it is definitely kind of a strange thing. But for your own notes, and for our viewers at home, Apaya was the god of justice, Lath was the god of death, Sturm was the goddess of the sea, Eterna is the god of the afterlife, and Krieg is the god of war. War and conflict. But, and then her bear's name was Glaz, who is the god of, like, music and entertainment.
How's Apaya looking?
Seems like he's just kind of resting, but from what you can tell from your brief glance, he seems healthy and very well fed.
That's good. Yes, I remember all of them. And she kind of looks over at Apaya and, like, is holding back, like, the urge to say, "Who's a good boy?"
Yes, well, I've heard of a new creature, a new beast, that has been discovered and is being transported. It's being transported to that's not very important. But what is important is that its transport is coming through town in a few weeks' time. And with how rare this creature is and how beautiful it is from what I have heard, I want it. And I expect to have it.
May I ask for some more details on this beast? I haven't heard anything about any beast thing going down. Is it another? She kind of gestures to Apaya. Is it another one of those?
No, something much, much grander, I'm afraid. It is not something that word has gotten out to the general population. It is something that I've simply heard about through a few of my close contacts that have experienced it. It's... how do you even describe its beauty? It has no name. It, as far as I'm aware, has no even historical significance or any information on it at all. But it is a wolf or a tiger of some kind with a black face and a white mane, and its back legs are striped almost like a zebra, but in black and this vivid turquoise. It is... I so can't wait to see it with my own eyes.
Sounds impressive. I've never heard of such a beast.
Neither have I. And that's why it is important that you get it for me. So 5,000 gold. And
Quite a bit.
you may gather whatever help that you see fit, that you may need. It is being protected, and you may have to provide some force to get it, but I trust in your abilities with these sorts of creatures, and I trust that you have capable contacts that will be able to help you along the way.
Yes, absolutely. May I ask what sort of thing I'm going to need to use force against? Like, what are we protected by? And by whom, I wonder? Whose men?
Give me a persuasion check.
Don't frickin' fail me again, lady.
If it's low again, we're just gonna kill Shaw and make a new
Do
character.
have inspiration. I just remembered that, but that was
One,
okay.
yeah, 21 is good. She looks at you for a moment. Well, it is being guarded by soldiers from Kenta. There's a creature that the king himself had on hand for some time, apparently. And now he has seen fit to get rid of it.
Get rid of it? As in, just sort of get rid of it, or set it free, or what? Well, I suppose it's not important.
It's not important. You will get to it before its destination's end, and you will get it here.
Right. It's a very high-profile job, isn't it?
High profile, but very, very, very important that you keep it a secret.
You have my word.
I'm glad. And of course, if you see this job done, I will unfortunately not be able to welcome you back into my employ. However, I will see fit to recommend your services to some of the other families that I know are in need of a good whatever it is you do.
Wow, thanks a lot. She kind of just snorts a little bit. She's like, in her head, she's going, 5,000 gold. You can't punch her. It's 5,000 gold. Yes, that would be lovely. I do miss it here, but any sort of, excellent at this point. You can count on me, I suppose.
Perfect. Well, in that case, I unfortunately have become quite busy, but I know a meal was promised for you, so if you would like to head down to the banquet, I've had my cooks prepare something special for you, and I will even give you Jane here and anyone else whose company you would enjoy to join you for your meal.
Fine.
What'd you say?
I said just Jane. Just Jane.
Very well. Well, Jane will give you some of the details of a dinner over when it is expected to arrive in the area and where it will go through and what its travel accommodations are so that you can start to put your plans together.
Excellent. Then it was nice seeing you again. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to work with you again on this. And then she kind of raises her hand and gestures for you to leave.
I will get up and leave.
Jane follows after you. This way? And leads you back down the stairs towards the banquet hall. It's very much empty, kind of in this weird situation where only you and Jane are going to be eating at this very long table that's kind of been set up in the center of the room. But you two sit close to one another, and some chefs and servants come out to serve you wine, and they kind of give you a starter salad and a nice little appetizer, like small plate, like tapas sort of deal. And then as the main meal comes out, they set a silver tray in front of you, and on like synchronized on cue, the servants like lift up the cover, and underneath it just appears to be a very common cut of meat. Something that you would regularly find on the outside of town and not really special in any way. And
looks over at Jane when she sees this and like raises an eyebrow.
Jane doesn't really acknowledge it, and just kind of picks up their fork and knife and starts cutting into the meat and taking small bites. So.
Yes, so that went well, don't you think?
I believe so. The creature is said to be coming into town in 17 days.
My, really? Guess
Yes.
all the help I get must be from around here then, huh? Hole in.
That is up to your discretion. according to the lady. It will be transported in a large metal crate on a wagon with armed guard. I cannot say how many guards there will be, but I know that there will be some experienced people, to say the least, leading the group. You will not have much of a window. On the 18th day and the 18th night, they are taking a ship called the Winter's Whale, and they will be sailing into the sea and away from here.
All right. So that is a very small time window. Feeling that she wants me to fail, Jane.
I believe she truly wants this creature, but I think she distinctly chose you for a reason.
That reason being she kind of stops herself.
That reason being, I don't think she will be too heartbroken if you don't get it, because then she can just watch as you slip further into nothingness, as you have been.
Thanks, Jane. That's really lovely.
Is it not the truth?
How's everything going? Can we never just...
Ah! Nina dropped out. Welcome back.
Just you and I actually put this behind us. I don't expect the lady to forgive me for what happened, but you at least.
I am of my lady's home, and my opinions and my actions are to serve her. If you wish to get to know me personally, or develop some sort of relationship that we could get to know one another and be more honest with another and forgiving and accepting, then perhaps you should come more often to invite me out. But
No.
Throughout my entire life you have been quite distant, and you've never been a fan of that sort of thing. I really adopted, like, fucking the lady's voice for Jane.
You did, but it's in character. They clearly idolize her. Around often, Jane, not after what happened.
I don't actually know what you said.
Oh man, did it cut out?
No-ish, kind of. I don't know.
Just whatever. I said, you know that I can't come around often, not after what happened.
But you can send letters, or you can talk to our parents and invite us all to get together again, or at least spend time with us as a family every now and again. But you like just staying on your side of town and drinking in that tavern and playing with your dog and living in your home.
Well, if this job goes well, I'll take you and Mom and Dad. We'll all go out somewhere.
Very well. I'm looking forward to seeing you accomplish the task.
Fingers crossed, right?
Fingers crossed. And if it doesn't work out, then I'm sure the lady will still be amused either way.
Yes, and that's what really matters, isn't it?
I believe so. We all have our parts to play.
Jaw has barely touched her meat, by the way.
Jane has finished hers at this point. Are you not hungry, dear sister?
No, I think this meat might be a little bit too fine for my taste. I'll have to go home and cook something for myself.
Well, apologies. Please allow me to show you out.
Thank you, I very much.
Then they stand. Fuck. I'm terrible with they, them pronouns, audience. Like, I'm trying, but I'm not great with it. They stand and kind of push their chair in after them, and very quickly some servants come and clear the plates as she leads you out of the banquet. Give me a perception check.
You got it.
You're good at perception, right?
She is actually pretty dang good at perception.
Hey,
Oh, hey.
as you're leaving, your eyes are kind of taking in this grand banquet hall that you're so familiar with, but seems completely strange to you as well. And as your eye glances up towards the lady's office, you can actually see her form like turning away and walking away from the edge, and it seems that she was just kind of watching you and your sibling the entire time. And then you are shown out and bid a fond farewell.
Fondest.
Fondest farewells.
Oh, Shaw's gonna go right to the tavern to get some food and some more welcoming atmosphere.
All right. Do you still have Falco with you?
Yeah, and I didn't change out of the dress either.
Okay. You walk in and it's not as busy as it was before. It's still relatively early in the night, and some shops are still open, and people are kind of off doing their own thing. It hasn't become the hours for people to get like crazy drunk yet. But you do recognize a few familiar faces as you're glancing around. Walking in, Todd goes ahead and passes you a jerky for Falco and looks you up and down. Look nice, and sets down a drink for you.
I take the drink and I'm like, yeah, just sort of felt like getting dolled up for absolutely no reason.
He nods, and kind of turns around and is messing with some mugs and various things. Dinner?
It'll be nice, thank you.
Nods again, and then heads towards the back to start getting that ready. As you're sitting there, a drunk older gentleman, not like too much older, but probably mid-40s, walks over, kind of balding and like a unkempt beard, like saunters over to you and sits on the stool next to you. Hey, how's it going?
She kind of like looks at him but doesn't say anything.
Like your eye patch.
Still nothing from Shaw. She takes a sip of her drink and just ignores him. Hopes he gets the hint.
He's not really getting the hint and is just trying to get your attention more and more. But as he does, eventually Tinker steps in the way and he's kind of arrived and puts himself between you two. All right. Get out of here. And kind of like shoves him off. And he takes the stool instead. You look
Hello?
nice.
Yes.
Haven't
Funny
seen you
you
in that
should-
dress in a while.
Funny you should mention that. Speaking of not seeing things in a while, guess what I was tonight?
Home. I don't know.
Well, you're right in one sense. I was at the ladies.
Hmm? He kind of makes a very weird noise. Not. Why the fuck were you there?
That's a lovely question, isn't it? Apparently, there's a rather... Well, I can't really talk about it.
Oh well, look at you being all secretive.
Yes, I'll have to keep a few things to myself, right?
Kind of cocks an eyebrow. I guess. I didn't think you'd ever be welcome back there after everything that went down.
Yes, me neither, and I still honestly don't quite think that I am welcome back.
So why were you there?
I can't really say here. It's of the utmost secrecy, and those aren't my words.
If you just want me to go back to your place, you can say, "Oh, Tinker, like, why don't we go back? It's a special night. I'm all dressed up."
Well, it wouldn't really be true, but if you would like to come back to my place so we can talk and nothing more, then you're invited.
As friends, then. I gotcha.
Oh, for now.
So you're saying there's a chance?
It depends, but don't wager any money on it, I'd say.
Oh, you know me. I always put my bets on you.
She is trying very hard not to, like, beam at that. So she's gonna down the rest of her drink and be like, honestly though, my place, you don't have to come right away, but I'll be there, and I would love to tell you exactly what happened because I am about to burst.
All right. Let me get a few drinks in me, get prepared, and then I'll head your way.
Get prepared, eh? Don't fix yourself up too much.
No, prepared as friends, of course.
Of course, it's friends.
Yeah.
All right.
He kind of like smiles and is laughing.
Yeah, we're both getting a good laugh out of this one. So I already ordered a dinner, but we'll just say that she was eating it.
Yeah,
when the dude came in.
we'll say it happened. And as you're walking out, you hear Tinker kind of shout out, "Todd, get me 3 more beers or 3 more ales."
This guy.
And then you head back to your place, and about an hour or so later, you get a knock at your door. I don't have a slide set up for your house.
Tragic.
Yeah, so we're just gonna go back. We're just gonna go back to the city map. I'll have a house one set up for next time. I'm so sorry, audience.
Alright, audience. Let me set the stage. It's since we have no lovely picture this time. It's a small, kind of cozy little place. It's still outside the city walls. The walls are kind of, there's shelves, and on each shelf there's some jars of some pretty gross stuff because Shaw does taxidermy as a hobby. Finished projects. There's a lot of little trinkets and whatnot set up, and some herbs to keep the place from smelling bad, and corner, and there's her bed, and there's a table, and there's not a whole lot else.
All right. Well, you get a knock at your door.
And I will open the door.
It's the creepy guy from the bar.
Oh shit, I kick him in the balls.
I'm just kidding. It's obviously Tinker. He's got like
rescind that kick in the balls then.
Yeah. He's got that like kind of rosy glow to his cheeks that you're more used to seeing on him. Like, all right, so And he kind of walks in past you, and sits down on your bed. Tell me what's going on.
Right. I shut the door, and I'm still standing. I turn to him and I say, so, the lady hired me for a top secret job.
She actually hired you?
Well,
Why the
isn't it?
fuck would she do that? Why the
Oh,
fuck would you take it? She's just setting you up, right?
Well, yes, you've answered one of your own questions there. Good for you.
Ha. I'm so smart.
You are. No, I thought to myself, what if I could actually pull it off? And then what would she do? Have anything else going on right now?
Well, what are you supposed to pull off?
Right. That's the tricky part. Apparently, there's some sort of official entourage for this beast of spectacular description. I've never heard of something like this before. It's supposed to be sort of a lion or tiger with like a black head and a white mane and it's on its hind and all this nonsense. I'm wondering if she's just not stringing me along, you know?
She very well might be. You know her.
Taking me for a fool. You want to know what trick she pulled? First, she said that she could see why her son wanted to sleep with me because he'd been raised on fine meats and wanted some of the common pig swill or whatnot. And then she served me for dinner just some old leather, honestly. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going to sit down
And
next
you're
to him on
helping
the
this
bed.
woman? Shaw, is this really a great idea?
Make a lot of bad decisions. I like one, but you know, I don't have much else. No.
You still there?
Still here. Did I cut out?
Yeah, you cut out.
Where did I cut out at?
You don't have much of a choice. Or you
All
don't
right.
have anything going on.
Just curious, you know, what if it is there? The other thing is, she offered me 5,000 gold.
What the fuck? 5,000 gold?
Gold. That was it. That's the reason. I completely forgot. It's that there's a fuck ton of cash riding on it.
Yeah, that's hard to pass up.
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
I am allowed to sort of ask for help on this one, which is very, very nice because it apparently involves armed guards and a very small window of time and all this lovely nonsense. So you wouldn't happen to know anybody?
Well, at least she's making it near impossible rather than just impossible.
Yes, I do appreciate that. She didn't have to go that far.
Well, I've got friends in the right corners of the world. I might be able to call on them, see if we can't tip the scales a little more in your favor.
I do appreciate that. What do I owe you for this kind gesture?
Well, we are already on your bed.
Oh, is that so? She kind of, again, hits him on the arm, like, teasing.
He kind of cocks his eyebrow. That is so.
This hopeful little man.
If not, you can just let me buy you a couple more drinks.
Well, I suppose, and we'll see what happens.
So to the tavern then?
The tavern, and then I suppose maybe back here again. She is as much as saying yes at this point.
Okay, sounds good. So you guys go off into the night and head back to the tavern for a good rest of your night and a night together, it turns out. And the next day he'll start putting out some words and seeing what he can gather together as far as assistance for you goes. And we will end things there.
Right.
Unless there was something else you wanted to do.
Nope. I think that to work on her contacts that she can think of as well, but other than that, she's just really nervous about whether or not this is a great idea.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, thanks for listening in, people who potentially listened in. The one shot is happening on the 9th, and then I'll probably have that session up somewhere on like the 10th or 11th. But yeah, hasta.